Well, hello, Facebook family and friends. Once again, we're here for day 3 of 21. A couple of people have reached out to me and said that, wow, these little life lessons are really helping. Thank you for that. I'm so glad. That has been the whole point of doing this over the next 21 days. But I really love that, the little life lessons, right? You know, these are just little bits of how we can kind of manage this adulting stuff, right? Hi, Vicky. Hi, David. So glad you guys joined and popped in. Thank you for being here. Okay, so because I've promised to keep these relatively short, today is on overwhelm. So overwhelm, that's a big one. And I know that a lot of people throughout my career have been, have complained, well, not complained, but have talked about how overwhelmed they can get sometimes. And I know myself, I can get overwhelmed too. And I just was recently overwhelmed. As many of you know, I'm in the middle of rebranding my company. And with that comes an enormous amount of work. And sometimes there has been a lot of things kind of coming at me at once, and it's felt incredibly overwhelming to deal with all of it because I'm just not sure how to manage it all sometimes. I've got this thing and I've got that thing, and I just haven't really always known kind of how to maneuver through. But the one thing that I learned throughout my life and my career was that when I'm overwhelmed, I had to break things down. So what really is overwhelm? If we think about it, yesterday we talked about confusion and how it's a jumbled mass of thoughts. Well, overwhelm is about too many expectations, right? It's, first of all, too much kind of going on at the same time. And so there's a bit of confusion in that because when we have all this stuff going on at the same time, then we're not quite sure, again, like yesterday, how to maneuver through it all, right? And all we see is all this stuff that we either have to do or somebody's requiring of us, or whether it's in our job or our personal life. And so overwhelm is really kind of one when there's too much going on and there's too many things that are sort of required of us, but it's really more about the expectations, okay? Whether it's expectations of another or the expectations that we have. And what happens then is if we have a lot of expectations in our own life about what we think we need to do or be, and then we have all this activity going on, and maybe it's required of us, like say for a job, we have to get these projects done or get this work done, or maybe it's even at home or with our children or in our personal life, then it can begin to feel really overwhelming. So we might have clarity, unlike yesterday with confusion, we don't always have clarity, but it can still feel like it's too much. And oftentimes it's because we feel we need to be something either for ourselves or for somebody else. So it ties into the expectations, right? That is like, my boss is expecting me to get these projects done by Friday. Today's Tuesday. I have too much going on. I still have to do my regular work, but I have to attend to these projects too. Oh my gosh, how am I going to get it all done by Friday? Because I want to avoid something, which is like him getting mad, right? Him being upset, him or her being upset with me, or maybe even losing my job. Or let's say like at home, I have all this stuff to do. I have to get the kids off to these events, and I have to take care of these things in the house, and I have to set appointments and make calls, and I have to do all this stuff. And I'm trying to be everything for everybody. So it's my own expectation, and it's absolutely expectations of others. But Mom, you said you'd take me. But Dad, you're supposed to do this for me. And it just becomes overwhelming. Hey, love, Tina Joe, thank you so much for dropping in, beautiful. So overwhelm is part of that expectation that we have or that others have about us. And then we're not really taking in or considering what we need, right? Or what is important to us necessarily. We're kind of living from that place of the expectations that either we have or others have about us. And we're kind of dismissing the things that we want or need, or even that are our strengths, because oftentimes overwhelm is about trying to be something for somebody else at the expense of our own self, right? And so, you may have heard these terms like people pleasing. Well, if you guys know me very well, you know I'm not a people pleaser, meaning I won't go out of my way just to please people at the expense of myself. I set pretty good boundaries, and I'm able to usually pretty much kind of, do the things I need to do or be what I need to be for myself and for others. And I am more than happy always to help others and to give and be and do for them. But it will never come at the expense of myself, right? Not usually anyway. I can't say that that's always true, but not usually, right? Expectations are a pain, Tina. They are, you know what? I don't know, Tina Joe, if we all have expectations. I'm getting into a gray area here where people might get, like, no, that's not true. But I can honestly say that I have very few expectations in my life. I have learned very, very diligently through my life to work to not have expectations, because that's where disappointment is bred, right? Is when we have expectations. Loretta Love and Tammy Joe. I'm doing Tina Joe and Tammy. Sorry about that, Tina Joe, Tammy. Thank you guys for popping in. I love you guys. I'm so glad that you're here. So I work to not have expectations, and people are like, oh, you have them. No, I really don't. I work to honor people where they're at so that I don't become overwhelmed, so that I don't feel like they're not following what I expect them to do, or how I expect them to be, or what I expect them to say. And that holds true for myself. Where I would say I have expectations still is within myself, right? Because we do a lot of self-beating up, and we're going to go into that over the 21 days. Trust me. So overwhelm is this thing that, like, we're so ingrained though with expectations. I mean, it really is a challenge to work through to learn how to let them go and release them. But we have to work at that. Sorry, I got distracted by the fact that David said he had lost audio and video. I hope you're back. Hello, Velvet Love. God, I just love your name. I love Velvet. She's such a love. So anyway, what we really need to do is, when we work to kind of release expectations, then the overwhelm begins to diminish a little bit, right? Because overwhelm is about all this stuff going on, the thoughts and feelings that we have about how we think we're supposed to be, or how we think others think we're supposed to be. And it just becomes too much. It's literally too much. So one of the ways to kind of combat that is to write down your priorities, right? Let's say you have a lot of things going on, and you have all these projects and all these things that you have to get done, or activities that you have to be engaged in, and it's just feeling like it's almost going into confusion, or it's almost going into stuck or lostness, or, feeling like we want to give up, which are all things we will talk about over the next 21 days for sure. But sometimes, in order to kind of avoid that, we need to take that step back, right? And look at the bigger picture. And the only way to do that, when we have all this stuff going on in our head and we're feeling all these feelings, is to write down your priorities. Like, write down, first of all the things that you think you have to do, all the things you have to accomplish or do that are feeling overwhelming right now. Write them all down. And then you take a look at them and you prioritize them. And you take a look at, what's the first absolute thing that I know is really critical and important to either get done or to engage in. And then you move on to the second one and the third one. Now, that's great, but that can still feel overwhelming, right? When I look at my list and I see 15 things on there that I know I need to accomplish in the next hour or day or 2 days, and I'm like, oh, I'm still feeling overwhelmed. Like, how am I going to get this all done? And so one of the things that I always shared with all of my clients through the years was the most critical thing and one of the most nurturing things you can do for yourself when you're feeling like that is you just take a look at all the things you have to do and you take it in these small, manageable chunks and bites. So I always use the example, and I love this because this was true for me last week, and this is exactly how I kind of processed through it then when I started to feel overwhelmed, was that you look at, like, imagine this office of mine, and I have a floor, and you can't see it that well, maybe a little bit. I don't even know which way to go on camera, right? Nope, see, opposite there. Okay, the floor right there. So imagine that you have this office or this space that has 3 feet of paper piled high. Now, that might be a hoarding situation, but we're not talking about that. Let's say you have 3 feet of paper piled high on this entire floor. It's covering every inch of the floor. And let's change the example to a work situation, okay? You're in an office, you have an office, and you have this 3 feet of paper all over the floor. I don't know how you'd walk in there, but let's just say you do. Again, this is just an example, so use your imagination. And your boss comes in and he says, Susan, you must clean this up entirely by Friday or you're fired. Well, I have 2 choices. I can sit back in my chair and cry and feel overwhelmed and have no idea how I'm going to manage this huge monumental task by Friday. Or I can take a 1 foot by 1 foot square of that office floor and piece by piece, paper by paper, don't worry about how it got to that place. Don't worry about how and why there's 3 feet of paper on your floor. Just take a 1 foot by 1 foot small square and clean that up. And then go to the next 1 foot by 1 foot small square and clean that up. Before you know it, you will have the entire floor cleaned. And then you can deal with, how did it get to that point? Or why did it get to that point, right? And so when we're living our daily lives and we're on this adulting roller coaster and we have all these expectations and we have all these responsibilities and we are working hard to be this whoever for ourselves or for other people, and it's feeling overwhelming, prioritize your list and then take that big picture kind of phoenix view back from it, right? And say, what is the 1 foot by 1 foot square that I can look at today in this small manageable chunk to get this thing done or get these series of things done? And I would invite you to only take like 1 or 2 priorities a day though, right, from that list. Because if you work to do too much, again, overwhelm is about too much. So if you work to do too much, you're going to go back into overwhelm again, right? And so set it on fire because nothing really matters. You got it, Lori. Oh my God. Hi, Donna. Nice to see you. Thank you for popping in. Yeah, set it on fire, right? Because it doesn't matter, Lori. You're so correct. But the reality is that most of us really can't do that, right? And that's where we get kind of stopped in overwhelm, is that we just look at all these things and we go, how am I going to ever get this all done? Or how am I ever going to get through this list? So writing out a list, which, be careful again, could be a little overwhelming in itself when you see it on paper, or you remember other things you have to add to the list. And now all of a sudden you have this huge list and you're like, I'm feeling overwhelmed. A way through it is to then prioritize that list by the absolute most important or critical priorities for you in your life with regard to that list. Take that small chunk, right? Each little step at a time, and only work to do 1 or 2 priorities per day. because that leaves you enough time to enjoy the other areas of your life and maybe do a little self-care and find a little balancing in that, and spend time in your work, with your family, with your loved ones, with your friends, doing something fun for yourself. If we're just constantly going, which is what I was doing last week, and why I began to feel overwhelmed, is because it just kept feeling like I've hit one task and completed it, and I have all these others that I have to go, through. And then I did the next one, and that might have taken me a couple of days, and it just felt like I had no time for anything else because I was just plowing through and plowing through and plowing through. And so when I took my own advice and stepped back and wrote out my list and kind of prioritized it, looked at the bigger picture of it, and took small chunks, wow, all of a sudden I was able to find time for me and to enjoy and to feel way more relaxed with it. So that's Overwhelm. I hope that today has helped. I hope that these little life lessons, I really kind of love that someone had reached out and said, these little life lessons are bigger than you know. And I went, that's really kind of cool. I guess these are these little life lessons. This adulting roller coaster can be really, really tough sometimes. And I don't know about you guys, but we can't stay children. And even if we want to kind of view the world through that beautiful, pure of heart, innocent eyes kind of viewpoint, we are adults and we still have to take care of things. And so with that comes all these emotional and psychological and stressful pieces sometimes that can get in our way and hold us back. And man, I am all about infinite possibilities and pure potential in each and every person. I worked in a prison. If I could deal with some of these people who honestly deserve to be there because of the crimes they committed, but they are still worthy and lovable human beings, every human on this planet is worthy and valuable. And we all have gifts to share and impact to make. And if we cannot live our deep, pure potential and live in that infinite possibilities that is within each and every one of us, my God, then how are we ever going to affect change and change the world in some of these scary times right now, right? So we're sitting at about 15-ish, 20 minutes. These are short little snippets, a little bit about each one, not diving super deep, a couple, 2, 3 little solutions and suggestions. I would love to hear your feedback. Again, for those of you who are new, if you haven't heard me before, this is a series that's going to go on for the next 21 days. Well, this is day 3, so we're going to end on August 28th. I'll come to you every day for a short little while. And if you would like the MP3, just the audio of all of this put together in a nice, easy, clear format, it's free. Just drop me your email. If you don't want it in the public comments, of course, because this is a public video, then please private message me. I would love to see you tomorrow. I will be back on, and tomorrow's topic is lost. Feeling lost. That's a tough one for a lot of people too. And so I love you all. I appreciate you all. I'm so grateful that you're here with me. And I thank you so much. And please feel free to share this video with anybody if you think it will help them. Just in these first 2 days, well, today's not over yet, but the 2 days we've already done, I've been getting so much feedback at how much these little pieces are helping. And I would just love to see that impact be bigger. Not because of me, but because as a therapist and a coach for 22 plus years, I cannot tell you how much people are craving to connect back to themselves, that deepest part of them, and to be who they've always been meant to be. And that is always my goal and my intention. So I love you all. Thank you so much for being here. I hope to see you tomorrow. Tomorrow I will be on again at 2 p.m. Central Time, and I will let you know if that changes throughout the 21 days, but I'm pretty much at 2 every day, except for a couple days down the road. I love you. Thank you. Have an amazing, beautiful, blessed, infinite possibility kind of day. And I'll see you tomorrow. Ciao for now.